Okay, I decided this week to start off the week by getting back to this hood and getting the rest of the paint off of it, and so that's what I've done. I just got a little bit of phosphoric acid on there right now, just to you know get at that any of that rust that's still on the hood, and I went ahead and put some self-etching primer on the back side here. I just give it a quick coat of black paint before I actually turn it upside down and start doing the body work on the back side or the bottom side. Last week, the situation with the nose got me a little bit off kilter because I just was going to toy with it and I wasn't going to get into it deeply, but now I'm into it. So I managed to unfold that end over here and start stretching it out to where it's going to give me more of the shape that I'm looking for compared to this one over here. At any rate, I had to, after looking at it for a little while, I just decided to slow down here a bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a buck so that I can be sure that both sides of this top portion of the nose is symmetrical. So the first thing I have to do is I have to get a negative pattern off of my car from the center line of the nose out to the end, just on the top plate. And what I've built here is just basically a fixture that I'm going to use to hang some. We're looking at it from the back side here. This will slide over the nose basically in this direction, and then each one of these stations here I'll be able to hang a paper pattern and have a reference at the very top for all those paper patterns to be transferred, which from a negative pattern, which is going to be what they're going to be in this jig, to a positive pattern to build just a top plate buck. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to get involved with the lower portion of the nose or the sides of the nose. All of that stuff can be dealt with after this top plate is established. It's the most important part. It's key to the whole look of this thing. So this is going to take a little time to establish this buck, make all the patterns. I have to make patterns in this direction, and I have to make at least 3 patterns going backwards across the nose and up the nose to get the contours in this direction also. If it looks a little confusing right now, it should be a little more self-explanatory once I get this shoved up against my car and you see what I'm up to. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see the difference of what I'm getting at as far as the shape on the side of the nose is concerned. How it's upswept. I get on this side here so you can see it more. You see this, how it sweeps down and in like that, and mostly it's above the headlight also, the headlight door. You can see it's swept in this direction over here so that it blends into this fender and it creates this ridge at the bottom. I just take a look by comparison over here, and you can see this is just straight across right here. There's it's a little bit picked up here, but it actually goes straight across here. It doesn't come from the headlight and then from this area here and then move up into this area. It's just the whole thing is high right here, which is not exactly right. So that's going to be my test to try and fix that. Like I said, I started working on it on this side over here just to see if I could utilize what I have here, which I'm happy that I can. There's enough metal there, and I think I'll be able to manipulate that, save the work I already did on my headlight door openings. But this is what we're after here, and depending on which way I stand, you could see that see the difference in the swale on the ends of this nose. At any rate, I'm going to push that fixture up to the front of this car and start making some patterns. All right, so this is the idea. This fixture's sitting flat on the floor, relatively straight across the car, so that I have a reference now on the top edge and the front edge over here to create these reverse patterns that will basically pick up the shape of this nose all the way across. There'll be patterns on each one of these stations to help me create a positive buck, which this is just cardboard. I'll make one out of wood that can be disassembled and reversed. That way I can use one side of all these patterns, flip them around, and use them on the other side to lay these panels on and make sure that the shapes are the same. At least that's the idea of it. I've got all these to make up now. Okay, so that completes my vertical buck stations right here. So now I've got to do some that go across in this direction. It's going to be a little bit more tedious than this, but has to be done to capture the shape. I have to go around the front edge here. This is the most important part. This rim and modeling that is going to be important. At any rate, that's where I'm at on this. Okay, so that finishes the negative buck. Now I got to pull this out and make a positive buck that I can work on, which should be a whole lot easier than tippy-toeing around this car, making sure I don't scratch it up while I'm playing with this wood and cardboard and paper and tape and all this good stuff and hot glue. At any rate, moving on to the next thing. Okay, this is what I'm up to now. I'm starting to build the positive buck based off of this negative form of the nose. The first thing I'm doing is I'm doing my cross hatch pieces that will basically slot into my vertical pieces, and in order to lock the whole thing together in a system that can be reversed. The only thing that won't be able to be reversed is this, which is a pretty critical piece right here. This is it would take too many stations to do that, so I'm going to have to actually go back to the nose once it's done, once this is done I should say, and basically bend a piece of rod to match my nose, because while I can do it with this shape on this side right here right now, I'm not going to make the whole thing over for the other side, but I want them to be symmetrical, and they're pretty symmetrical on my car. So I'll rough it in on the car, and then I'll try and follow as many guides as I can to make that curve correct. But that's pretty key to the whole shape of the nose. So that's just a kind of an eyeball thing that has to be done. And anyway, this is the first station. I'll go along and I'll trace this line and then this line, and then just pick up the points as I go, and then I'll trim that off, and that'll be the first station that'll be able to be set upright, and then my vertical pieces, when they're made, they'll slide down into these slots. Anyway, I'll show you that when I'm done with it. All right, so I've got my my intermediate patterns taken out here, so that I can now slide these pieces in and trace them off and get a positive mold here. And you can see this is basically, here's my intermediates cut out when they're all slotted, so that we get a little half to half deal here, where you can, this half the slots in one panel, half is in the other, so I could slide down and interlock these panels, and then I'll be able to take these, flip these around and reverse them to get the other side of this buck when it's finished. Anyway, that's where I'm at with this. Okay, so this is where I'm at. I had to establish this line basically across here, so I had to take this piece of hydraulic tubing and basically bend it against my car and get that sweep, because it cuts in two different directions. As you can see, it kind of arcs over as it sweeps around the turn and comes back up. It needs to be straightened up just a little bit here, but I'm going to leave it here for tonight, and I just thought you might like to see how that looks. I'm going to lay this paper pattern on there and show you what that looks like here in a minute. All right, so that's what the paper laid on there, just to give you an idea if I'm following the pattern correctly. Again, that paper pattern was taken off my car. I realized that on this car we're going to have more space here, but I definitely want the shape to blend in the same way. So if our doors end up starting in this area here, you know, that'd be fine. Just I have to get that shape right, and there's only one way to do it, and that's to tinker around with it like this. And anyway, that's where I'm at with this. I might jump back on the hood tomorrow, because this is wearing the old brain cells out here a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what tomorrow morning brings. Okay, before I bank off and get back on the hood, because this project really is going to need my full attention because of the amount of metal working that's got to happen in here to get this all to turn down and not distort the headlight opening, and you get it to lay down. You can see the profile, how it's you know, it's got to turn pretty hard right here. Everything else is pretty well fit as far as how it lays on this jig. So that's good. It relaxed up enough that it's pretty nice back here. You see where it's hitting all the stations all the way along. As it starts to rise up right about here, this all needs to cave in the middle over here, and that's going to take my full attention. And I'm got to get back on that hood, and because that's got to be taken care of before I can plug the nose in, because it'll be difficult to put the hood on with the nose on, because it's about 18 inches out further than what I have to do with the hoist now. It's a long hood to start with. Anyway, you can see I built this base and put these blocks every so often, and what that's doing for me is, just because this is just made out of 1/4-inch Luan, these uprights, this is squaring it up, making sure that it doesn't distort. Pretty important to keep it nice and square with the edge here on both the back and the sides, where the common point was, where I took this jig. Anyway, as a reference point. Anyway, this is where I'm at with this, and like I said, I'm gonna bank off of this now and get back on the hood. Okay, so I'm almost done. Put a couple rust treatments on this this hood skin. I'm almost done cleaning it up. I've got a few spots here and here that got some deep pitting that I want to do a little media blasting in those couple of spots before I coat this with something. Anyway, it's nice to see it all in one color here, so we can see what this hood scoop's going to look like. Very surprised that the curvature of the inlet that we've worked in here works almost perfectly with the power bulge that's existing in there, and that there was enough space to get this whole thing in here. So I'm real happy about that. At any rate, I just coated the top side with a little black paint here, just because. Anyway, what I'm about now is I've got these long pistons in, and as you can see, when they're compressed, it'll be fine over here. They'll be somewhere up in this neighborhood. So, but I've got to take this bolt out of here, and then I've got to go ahead and I've got to modify this bar over here so I have clearance for this thing to just lay back down in here. What I've done here is the plate that holds this fender in here. There's an attachment point here for the fender. I just went right into that plate with this stud here, and what that enables me to do is to just simply put the pistons right on here like that. And then I have to put a plate up on the frame and see how this all works. Anyway, got to modify that first before I can get the hood back on. All right, so I went ahead and I scavenged these plates out of a set of hinges, trunk hinges, so that I would have this pin to locate the other half. The pickup point on the top side of these pistons. I got one on both sides over here now. Went ahead and threaded the one in over there, this ball over here, with a spacer to space it out to where it needs to go. I've done a modification on here, give it a little step. That way the piston has a place to go when it's compressed. Well, this looks like it's in the way. This is actually the point where when the hood is closed, the piston should be pushed back to this location. So I should have a pretty good clearance, little alley there. And over here I had to take a little bit of this plastic housing out in order to make that same clearance happen on this side over here. At any rate, I've got to put this hood back on again and do a little more fooling around here, see if it's all going to work out. Well, the first test was pretty good as far as the ability of these things to lift. They got plenty of power to lift. I still have to load the skin on there to see if it's going to be capable of lifting with the skin, but each one of these pistons is rated for 100 pounds lift each. And I don't think there's 100 pounds of capacity here that we're dealing with. But I told you about the force of those pistons when they're trying to compress, distorting things. So I'm going to have to come up with a better pickup point here. As you can see, this pivot point's been completely bent over. Now, in fairness, I don't really have, that's not as solid a point as I thought it was. It's just a bracket with, was used for bolting the fenders on. So I'll have to pull this back, fix that, and come up with something more substantial that maybe ties into the shock tower itself over here and goes to the back. And yeah, so that's what the pistons did. Once they were compressed, they bent these things over quite a bit, but it held it up pretty nicely, and it was way high in the air too. It was a little hard to reach for me. I'm only 5'10". I'm probably shrunk since I last measured myself, but a little hard to reach. Of course, it's up off the ground, so I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Anyways, back to the drawing board on the pickup points over there for sure, and we'll go on from here. All right, I just threw the skin on here to see what this is all going to weigh put together. I mean, I still haven't got my ends built out, but that's probably only about 2 or 3 pounds. It's not going to make a big difference. Anyway, this is the bracket that I've come up with. It's a 1/4 inch steel, and it's going to through bolt here, so it'll be a lot more substantial, because basically all we had here was 40 thousandths steel, which makes up this rim of the fender, and then underneath there's a bracket. It's made out of 60 thousandths, but it's basically, it was not that strong. It didn't have any strength forward to back. It's just to attach the fender here with this bolt. What I did have to do, because the stud is located so close to my existing bolt, is create this hole large enough that I can get a socket in through that hole to remove the fender. So this will stay attached to the fender. Ideally, it's just going to through bolt through those 2 holes right there, and that should be enough. This is welded on now. This is threaded and welded on with this heavy spacer here, so that should be more than substantial. If that twists it off, I think we'll just forget about it, but I don't think it will. We'll see. Okay, so that's the hood with the skin on it. So it's pretty much 99% of the weight it's going to be on there. The only thing that's going to be added to this is going to be, of course, paint and a little more sheet metal down the edges and the back. But for the most part, and of course the padding underneath. But for the most part, that's most of the weight that's going to be on this. So I've got it supported right now with those two pistons, and I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit of a pull down to see that, you know, once it gets over a certain point, you know, they want to give up their strength, but you don't want it to be falling on your head while you're working on it. So as you can see, it's pushing itself back up just fine. So I'm going to bring it all the way down like that, and we're good to go. Definitely going to have to add a spring to the front to push this up out of the hole. Once you pop the lever, this thing doesn't jump up like it should, and you can't get your fingers underneath the front edge of the hood. So I've got a little spring that I've salvaged out of another hood, and I'm going to put that underneath there to, once I see the location. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. Okay, so I already modified this bracket somewhat, because as it pivoted up, it was hitting on the rod. Now it's hitting on the actual body of the shock here. So I'm going to have to clear out all of this, or excuse me, just some of this material right here. This my little edge piece here, And then I'm going to have to cut this bracket and modify this bracket, bring it up and over and across so that it maintains its strength from this pickup point here. I've got plenty of room. It's 5/8 of an inch up here, so I can come up above and come across and tie into this area over here to clear these pistons. It's a good that's a good reason why it's nice to have, well, in this case, the skin just happens to be short, but before anything's finalized and the skin goes on, that all these things can be looked at in operation. So you can see it's not quite down. I didn't force it down. I just let it stop where it wanted to. I can see you've got the same situation over here where it's hitting the body of the shock. So this has to come out and this has to be clearanced. Anyway. Okay, so basically you can see now that the shock body has plenty of room. I can still come up and over and then down and weld a bracket on this, which I'll do with the piston out on the bench. But I have some other adjustments that have shown themselves up here. One of the things I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to thin out the substructure right in this area so you can get your fingers in a little bit better underneath that to release the hood. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's not that big of a difference. Maybe 1/4 of an inch is just enough to make that happen. Normally a hood has an overhang of a little flat area where you can kind of grab it, just a flat rim. I've chosen to take this structure all the way out to the end just for the reasons of trying to keep everything aligned. In the department of alignment, as you can see, this is a little low. This is my nose piece. It's not gapped as much as I thought it would be. I put my sheet metal buildups on and everything, and thought I had it. So it's a good thing to actually be using the real thing here right now. So I'm going to have to cut these, and I'm going to have to adjust this thing out a little bit so that my gap along my front edge of the hood is a little bit better than what I've got right now, because this is the actual piece that's going to be on there. This corner rolls off on the framework a little bit too hard relative to this. I knew it was a little bit down, but it's pretty pronounced once you get this piece of metal here lining up with the top of the fender. So I'll have to work on flattening this out in this area just a little bit, and then adjusting the hood adjuster up a little bit in that corner. This corner seems to be fine. Everything seems to be playing out. This, and this all seem to be in the same plane. Lots of little things, with this hood. This hood does want to be this shape, especially out in the back over here. So I've got some areas over here I need to flatten out a little bit on the framework, because it's a little bumpy. It's a little bump as opposed to a smooth transition here. Just a lot of little back and forth. This is what really takes the time on this stuff. I'm going to take this thing out of here before it gets damaged. So anyway, that's where I am with that. Okay, it was a bit time consuming, but I had to get the hood itself to match this rim, minus a layer of sheet metal on here, which will be the nose. I had to get this angle a little bit better than what I had going on here. And the reason I had to get the hood to comply is because this is uniform and symmetrical, this piece here. So the hood being higher on this side over here was definitely an issue with the hood. I uncurled this piece here, which was kind of difficult. I ended up using some angle iron underneath and then some spacers, and then using a clamp and just screwing it down to unfurl this little curl here. So now sheet metal will play out to here, and it also is even with the edge of the fender over here. Just a lot of little stuff like that as you go along, and has to be done before you commit to anything, or else it's almost unsalvageable when you get too far along. So I know I'm anxious to get this hood done, but at the same time, I want to make sure that it doesn't cause for a lot of extra work at the end if things don't line up. All right, just working on remodeling the back end over here. Trying to get a transition piece here, close this cowl up a little bit, trying to figure out what this curve is going to be. Close that up a little bit, and that's about all I have time for this week. And so I appreciate everybody for watching, and I will see you on the next one.